What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk to you about some of the heat that the ketogenic diet is getting. We've got a lot of people coming after the ketogenic diet right now, and the reason for that is because there's a lot of people who are doing the ketogenic diet right now. It's becoming really, really popular, and there's a lot of pretty famous YouTubers trying it now. And while I'm glad that they're trying it, while I'm glad that they're putting knowledge out there, some of these YouTubers are getting it wrong. And they're not explaining the diet the proper way. They're not giving very good tips about how to utilize the diet as a tool, and they're not setting expectations in the proper way. But here's the thing, some of the people who are criticizing the ketogenic diet aren't really criticizing it based off of real scientific knowledge. They're criticizing it based off of their assessment of what that knowledge says, and they're bringing in a lot of emotion into it. You know, a lot of the ketogenic diet questions every single thing that most people in the fitness industry have been told their entire lives. And the scientific evidence is demonstrating that it is very beneficial for a lot of purposes. It's beneficial for helping people to lose weight, increasing insulin sensitivity. It's beneficial to help mental performance. It's even been shown to help to increase physical performance and to preserve muscle mass. Now, this is contrary to what a lot of people are saying about the ketogenic diet. So what I want to do right now is I want to go into the top 5 criticisms I've seen about the ketogenic diet. And as we get into these, I want to talk about them. I want to talk about whether they're valid criticisms or not. And then I want to provide you with evidence toward the reality of what the ketogenic diet really does, really is, and what it can do for you and to you. So one of the biggest criticisms I see from people about the ketogenic diet goes something like this. I tried keto. I was sitting there, I was eating bacon, I was eating sausage, I was eating grease all day long, and I never adapted into ketosis. I got headaches. I couldn't take a freaking poop. Dude, here's the thing, guys. You have to understand a couple of things. Number one, the keto diet is not a meat, grease, and cheese diet. Okay? And I'm going to get into that in a minute and why that is a really bad way of trying to adapt. Number two, the ketogenic diet is going to take time to adapt into. Right? It's going to take time. For some people, it could take 14 days. For some people, it could take 21 days. For others, it could take 5 days. The longer you've been fat adapted, or if you've been fat adapted before, you're going to have an easier time of adapting back into ketosis, right? That's just the way it works. Your body has to get used to this new fuel source. The second you start depriving your brain of glucose, its energy levels are going to go down. You're going to be flushing water out of your system because your kidneys are going to be flushing that out. And in turn, you're also going to be flushing out minerals. So what happens then? You start to get headaches. You start to get even lower energy than you did. You start to get constipated because you're dehydrated. And you start to get muscle cramps and a whole host of other things happen. Right? So what do? Well, number one, you need to make sure that during adaptation that you're including MCTs in your diet, medium chain triglycerides. You can find MCTs in coconut oil. Coconut oil is about 30% MCTs, but you can also get MCT oil. Now, these are important. MCTs are so important because your liver converts them directly into beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is one of the main ketones that your body uses, and then your brain is able to use that for energy, right? And so definitely want to be including MCTs in your diet. If you're consuming nothing but long-chain fatty acids, coming from meat, coming from dairy, then you're going to have a harder time adapting because your body takes a much longer time to break those fats down and to process them out of your liver into ketones. So you really want to make sure that you're including MCTs. The other thing you want to make sure of is that you're including minerals in your diet. A lot of people will start to drink tons and tons of water, but without the minerals, your body is not able to hold on to them. Without electrolytes, your body's not able to hold on to that water. So I've said this before, you definitely want to be including Himalayan pink salt into your diet. This is kind of a review from other videos, and you can watch my last video if you want a review of how I do that. And another important thing is taking care of your liver, and this is why I consume a lot of apple cider vinegar. I consume some every single morning, and I consume a little bit after every single meal. It helps with liver detoxification, and it helps to bring your blood sugar down. And then the other thing is, if you want to adapt quickly, you need to increase your physical activity levels. I didn't say go out and do a really hard workout. During the adaptation phase, you're not going to want to do that. But after you've eaten a meal, go for a 15-minute walk. Do some push-ups, do a set of squats, right? All of these things are going to help to keep your blood sugar down. It's going to help to level out your insulin levels, and it's going to allow you to adapt more quickly into ketosis. So yes, if you try to adapt into ketosis the wrong way, you're going to feel like crap. But know that there are tons of resources out there, including our free keto adaptation guide, which you get if you sign up for our newsletter. I'll put a link below. Know that there's tons of resources out there, and books that can help you to adapt more quickly if you have the knowledge of what to do. So the next criticism I hear about is that it's going to decrease your performance, decrease your strength, and reduce your muscle mass. And this is funny to me because during my last bodybuilding show, which was the first NPC Men's Classic Physique division, throughout the entire prep, up till about 2 weeks out of the prep, I was in a ketotic state. I was consuming nothing but fats, vegetables, a little bit of protein, and then I was consuming some collagen protein and introducing some branched chain amino acids to protect my muscle mass. But 2 weeks out, I had to make the 180-pound weight class, and I was 200 pounds, right? And what happened was I actually had to come out of ketosis in order to cut weight. Why was that? That's because I had to burn off a little bit of muscle to get in that show. Make a long story short, that was the last bodybuilding competition I ever did because the dehydration process actually really, really killed my body, and I'll never do a bodybuilding show again because of that. But I took second in one of the biggest classes in the very first NPC Classic Physique competition. And I'll put some pictures up here for you so you can see what I look like. But here's the thing, guys. That's anecdotal evidence. That's my story. You want to hear the evidence. Now, here's the thing. There's been numerous studies out there that have demonstrated that the ketogenic diet can help you to build muscle mass and preserve muscle mass. There's also a really awesome study that came out, I think it was last year or the year before, from Jeff Volek and his team at the University of Connecticut. That was prior to Jeff Volek moving to the Ohio State University. And what they did was they took groups of ultra endurance runners. Now these are those guys who run 100 miles or more. And what they did was they separated them into two groups. For 6 months, there was a high-fat group. They consumed a high-fat ketogenic diet. And then for 6 months, there was a low-carb group. They took these two groups, they brought them to the University of Connecticut, they put them on an inclined treadmill for 3 hours, right? And in between, halfway through the trial, they took muscle biopsies. Now, they found some really interesting things. Number one, obviously, the people who are on the ketogenic diet, they oxidized fat more effectively, meaning they were using fat for fuel more effectively than the high-carb group. The high-carb group only used glucose, and they had to stop for refeeds. Number two, now, you're probably not an ultra-endurance runner, but this is extremely important for you if you're trying to lose fat and build or trying to cut down while maintaining your performance. The ultra endurance runners had no glycogen depletion, right? Their muscle glycogen didn't deplete at all over a 3-hour trial. Now, why is that important for you? That means that once you're adapted into ketosis, you are going to be able to retain more muscle strength, right? And this was a breakthrough study that showed that. It doesn't matter if you're an ultra endurance runner, it doesn't matter if you're a bodybuilder, it doesn't matter if you're a power lifter. If you have to cut weight while you're fueling yourself with glucose, you're depriving yourself of your main fuel source. But if you're in ketosis while you're cutting weight, there's a good chance that you're going to retain your muscle glycogen. And that's one of the big reasons why I do a ketogenic diet, is because when I want to train throughout the day, I don't want that to be dependent on when I'm eating. There's a lot of people out there who can't do a workout without eating first. Me, I've come back from 3-day music festivals where I was consuming nothing but water, coconut oil, and a couple other things that I don't want to talk about here on camera. But I'd come back from these music festivals and I would PR. That is absolutely insane, and that's one of the reasons why I do the ketogenic diet. I'll link all these studies below for each of you for your review, and like I always say, don't take my word for it, see what the science says. The third reason is not a good reason at all. It's because they think it's going to be a boring diet. Now, I don't know if you understand this, you probably do because you're on YouTube, but we have this thing called the internet, and you can pretty much find any recipe out there that you want to make, whether that's keto macaroni and cheese, whether that's keto cannoli, right? I don't know if there's any other fellow Italians out there, but I love me some cannoli. So I've got a recipe for keto cannoli. You can find keto cheesecake, you can find keto pasta, keto pizza, a whole host of them. And they don't taste like imitations, they taste like the real freaking thing. Now granted, you're gonna have some problems if you go to the store and you look for a frozen keto pizza, unless you're going to a super crazy health food store. But if you're already prepping your meals anyway, and you're already cooking your own food, as you should be if you're into health and fitness, then you can find recipes to make any food, any comfort food you want, keto style. And it's absolutely awesome. I cook this way, I cook for my family, I love cooking, and so maybe that's just me because I love exploring recipes. But you know what? They're easy to find if you want them. In fact, if you sign up for a newsletter, again, I'm plugging myself again, you get a free cookbook, and it's got 30 recipes. And if you want more recipes after that, I post recipes each week on our private mastermind, the Warrior Soul Agoge, which I'll also put a link for below. But either way, you don't have to pay me anything. You don't have to sign up for my email list. You can go to Google and name your favorite food, put keto in front of it in the search finder, and you'll find a shitload of recipes that you can create some fabulous keto meals with. And again, your diet doesn't have to be boring. That's a dumb criticism. The next criticism comes from vegans, and I actually hate this criticism because it's completely wrong. Vegans think that the ketogenic diet is an animal-based diet, an animal products-based diet, and it's not. It's completely not an animal products-based diet. Most of what I eat is vegetables, green leafy vegetables, and I also eat a lot of sulfur vegetables. I also eat a lot of nuts, lots of seeds. I eat a lot of coconut, right? I actually eat very, very little meat. And the protein threshold on a ketogenic diet is not very high. Protein is still important, but I don't recommend consuming more than 0.45 to 0.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight if you're a normal human being. And if you're an athlete, I don't advise eating more than 0.8. Right? Otherwise, you're going to be throwing your blood sugar off through gluconeogenesis, and that could take you out of ketosis. But even though protein is very important, it's not the basis of my diet. The basis of my diet is fat. And I can find a whole lot of non-animal based fat products out there. And in fact, here's a few. MCT oil, derived from coconuts. Sometimes it's derived from palm. I highly recommend the ones derived from coconuts. Avocados. Avocados are a fantastic source of fats, and every morning I have a smoothie with 2 whole avocados in them, along with MCT oil. Full fat coconut milk. Again, a really awesome source of fat that's completely vegan. I don't recommend this brand. I recommend getting organic coconut milk. I was in a pinch when I had to get this. Coconut oil, 30% MCTs, right? It's a fantastic thing to cook with. It's delicious. I absolutely love it. And then olive oil. Now, here's the thing. You also want to make sure that you're getting omega-3s in your diet. Now, vegans you can still get omega-3s, but I don't recommend getting them from flax or some of the other vegetable sources of omega-3s. I recommend getting them from algae. And here's the reason. If you listen to my podcast with Dr. Brant Courtright, who's one of the top experts in brain health, and another podcast that I did with Dr. Michael Lewis, the author of When Brains Collide, they both say that flax is a poor source of omega-3s. They don't absorb very well. But algae actually contains the same types of fatty acids that fish oil does. And if you consume algae, that can definitely help your brain, because one of the primary reasons to consume omega-3 fatty acids is because it's a neuroprotectant that helps to protect your brain and that helps to increase neurogenesis. And if you want to listen to those podcasts, I'll put links below. But the bottom line is, don't be out there saying that the ketogenic diet is bad for the environment and bad for the world. It's not. So we come down to my most frustrating criticism, and the criticism that's hardest to overcome for most people. And that is that the ketogenic diet is going to give you a heart attack. Now, recently a scientific consensus came out, right? And this was a meta-analysis that examined the role of LDL in coronary heart disease. And they said emphatically that it's LDL cholesterol that causes coronary heart disease. It's pretty hard evidence to overcome, and I don't intend to do that. But that particular study looked at LDL cholesterol and its role in coronary heart disease. It did not look at the ketogenic diet, and it did not examine how LDL cholesterol affects the heart in a carb-restricted environment. Right? Other studies have come out, and they've demonstrated that with carb restriction, LDL cholesterol went down, and I'm talking about carb restriction with high fat intake. Overall LDL cholesterol went down, and there was a higher count of large particle LDL than small particle LDL. Now, large particle LDL is known as benign LDL. And why is that? Because it has an easier time of pushing through the artery. So don't let anybody scare you with that quote-unquote scientific consensus that ketogenic dieting is bad. It's not a scientific consensus that ketogenic dieting is bad. It's a scientific consensus that LDL has a role in creating coronary heart disease. They don't know, they didn't measure anything else. They didn't measure carb restriction, and the studies that involved carb restriction actually showed that lipid profiles improved in people. So here's the thing, guys. I want you guys to understand something. Number one, the ketogenic diet, I talk about it a lot. And I talk about it a lot because I think it's a potential tool to help people. I do not by any means think that it's the only tool out there in the diet world. And for some people, the ketogenic diet is definitely not the right tool. What I recommend you to do as you come across people who are promoting the ketogenic diet and criticizing the ketogenic diet, I recommend that you do your research. I'm going to do my best to provide you with resources, but as I've always said, I also want you to question me. I don't want you to take anything I say as truth just because I'm me. I want you to question every single thing that you see on YouTube. Now, if you are convinced that you want to try the ketogenic diet, then we provide a lot of tools that you can use. If you sign up for our newsletter, we've got the cookbook, we got the ketogenic adaptation guide, and we got 21 days of free workouts that we're giving away for people who sign up for our newsletter. If you're even more interested, we also run Warrior Soul Keto Camp, where we take people through this process of education and show them exactly what the ketogenic diet can do. And we've kept Warrior Soul Keto Camp inexpensive for that purpose, because we are trying to educate people more than anything else. And then beyond that, regardless of what you do, I want you to go out there and I want you to take care of yourself. We've got far too many sick people in the world. We've got far too many people consuming processed food that's killing their insulin sensitivity and then it's creating a plague of diabetes. So regardless of what it is you're doing, just make sure that you are trying to take care of yourself, take care of your health, and be the best person that you can be. And with that, I will end this very long video, and I will talk to you very soon.